Most people got into horses because they want to feel joy, connection, freedom, partnership. But somewhere along the way, so many riders end up trapped in systems that make everything feel heavy, serious, and downright frustrating. When I start talking about playfulness with horses, a lot of people immediately picture liberty work, tools, pool noodles, or some kind of circus act in the arena. But that's not what I mean. What I mean is, how do we help horses feel good enough, safe enough, and interested enough to actually participate in what we're asking them to do? How do we prepare their bodies and minds in a way that creates willingness instead of just obedience? In today's episode, I'm joined by Giorgia Ghizzoni of Hatha Equus. We talk about play, intrinsic motivation, emotional regulation, and why so much of what we've been taught to call resistance may actually be just information from your horse that we haven't learned to hear yet. We haven't learned how to hear it. This is a really thoughtful conversation, and I think it's going to stretch the way you think about training in the best possible way. Let's get into it. Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. I'm Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened, and this is the Thinking Horseman Rider, the podcast dedicated to training you to become the best possible partner for your horse. Here, we explore the science and soul of horsemanship. We dive into equine behavior, the psychology of partnership, and compassionate training methods that help you become a thinking rider who creates a thinking horse. Because when you understand how your horse's mind works and show up with empathy and presence, everything gets easier and a whole lot more fun. My goal is to keep riding easy and fun for everyone, while helping you deepen your connection, find more flow, and maybe even create your own unicorn along the way. Whether you're working on dressage movements or just trying to understand why your horse did that thing they did, we'll explore the research, the real talk, and the small shifts that make a big difference in and out of the saddle. So grab your boots, take a deep breath. What are you waiting for? Come ride with me. Welcome, Giorgia. It is great to see you again, even though it's just virtually.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of this podcast today. I'm really excited to talk because I think it is such something that people really underestimate in teaching horse. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed. I can't wait to unravel all that we're going to unravel together today, and I'm grateful for being here.
All right. Well, before we get started, I want you to introduce yourself formally and tell us about your business and what you do, the cool clinics you offer,
Yeah.
online
Yeah,
programs, all that stuff.
gladly. Well, my name is Giorgia Ghizzoni. I'm the co-founder of Hatha Equus International together with my business partner, Elizabeth Ricks, who says hi. Um, the best way I have to explain what we do is to tell it through a quick story. I've had my Mustang Sombra for 9 years now, 8 years, 9 years. And I thought that we were doing great. She would do everything I would ask until, I mean, there were some mild issues. Like she would fall on her front knees for no reason. And then one time I asked her to walk under saddle. She must have been 5 or 6 probably at the time. She was really green and barely starting. And she tried to jump a gate, a 6 foot gate with me on her. Um, I didn't think anything of it. And then I got pregnant with my firstborn, and I was like, well, she's still green. It's not the safest thing to continue her riding journey until after the pregnancy, and so I won't ride. That's fine. I love liberty. Let's do liberty. Only that really turned into me staring at her butt from the other side of the arena for a year. Um, and that was frustrating to say the least. And it helped me realize that I was doing all the things, and I had been, I picture a tree. I had been trying to grow branches. I've been trying to jump, to trail ride, but I forgot about the roots. I forgot that it takes two in a relationship, two willing beings to enjoy something safely. I forgot that, horses are often not the easiest emotionally. So sometimes I needed to be her therapist. Like, how do you deal with frustration? How do you handle your own feelings? Do you know you have feelings? I forgot. I didn't know, what motivates her really, truly. Not just to be a good girl, but what actually motivates you so that you want this as much as me. Because I realized I wasn't interested in anything different than that. Either we both wanted, or you can be a pastor pet. I mean, if that's what makes you happy, I don't want you unhappy. It's not only
Right.
unsafe for me, but I just don't want it. So I had to start digging. And Elizabeth was doing her own similar journey at the same time. And then we started getting all these horses at our home ranch that were really challenging and complex. So those were the roots that we started developing, and that is what we are honored to teach now because what our horses taught us, they, kept pointing us back to the drawing board. Okay, well, we've achieved this one. Now you're consensually inviting me on. Great. But you're still really running through the aids and you're still, okay, well, how can I make you want to collect? How can I make you want? And so all of this brought us to co-creational horsemanship. This is now what we teach. It's a whole foundational system that enables your horse and you to do basically whatever you want because you're both happy, athletic, emotionally satisfied, fulfilled, aware, and together, like together. That's a little bit of the story and of what we do. Teach online and at clinics. That's how you and I met.
I love it. I think it's so interesting how we usually get started in horses and we go through all the things that people teach us how to do and we learn all the things. And then almost everybody that I know gets to a point and they're like, wait, there's something that I'm missing. And then it's just a big journey to find what it is. Sometimes you go through it multiple times, right?
I mean, it's a forever journey, especially with, I mean, we're all complex dynamic systems, horses, humans, and we all change and we all evolve. So even with the easiest horse ever, it's a never-ending journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can tell you now, my Mustang, she loves to cut cows. She adores jumping, like actually will choose jumping at Liberty in a huge arena without me asking her. Will go out of her way to jump and then come back to me. She will give rides very gladly and consensually to my 4-year-old daughter. But this is not to say that the journey is over. She'll always be a complex case. We were just talking about her struggling with, her transition to my home property instead of the home ranch where she's been at, and that's just what it is, right? That's the beauty
Yeah.
of what you and I have embraced as our professional life too, in a way.
Yeah, it's always a journey, and you never know when that journey's gonna take a sharp, curve or whatever. I'm gonna ask you because I feel like this is one of the hardest concepts for people to grasp when I start talking about it, but they always feel as soon as you say talk about playfulness or intrinsically motivating the horse, they think about liberty for one, and then always something involves a ball or a pool noodle or oh my gosh, a pool noodle, which are tools that we can use. But
Yeah.
in my mind, it's really more about the thought, the playful thinking, and how horses use that every day because they are not on their own in their herds, like using balls and noodles, right? But they're still playful with their other horses.
Yeah.
They're not always these sour-faced Eeyores, running around being grumpy to each other. That's just not their nature.
Yeah.
And people have a really hard time, I feel like people have a really hard time understanding the difference between having this playful mindset and going out and, I don't know, jumping on a trampoline. Like it's not the same thing. What does playfulness mean to you?
Before answering that question, I would like to start by inviting a thought, inviting a thought process. Everyone might have a different definition of what play means to them. Some people might not like it. Some folks maybe have a past. And so play is
Right.
out of the question. I'm a serious person, and that's okay. Everyone should be perfect as they are.
Right.
But the thought process that I would like to invite is what are your goals and who is your horse and how can you bridge the gap? Right.
Hmm.
So my goals say is uh, a dressage competition. Okay, I want to get all the way to Grand Prix. My horse detests dressage and won't collect for the life of them. Okay, well, even if you don't like play because you think it's childish thing and it's behind you now, right? If we get smart and we want for our horse to truly perform, not just be obedient, not just perform instructions like a pro and be a good boy or a good girl, but really own the movements and really self-carry and want it, want it in a way that the judges are, whoa, something magical is happening here, right? Then we better find a way to teach them the moves in a way that they like them. They will want to perform it. They will even volunteer them, which this concept even blows people's minds, right? Sometimes, because you're like, well, we have to go through the bad in order to get to the good, and maybe at the end you'll like it, but we'll have to do this amount of lunging in order to get there, and then I'll have to use these aids in order to get you there, and so on and so forth. And maybe, there's a percentage of horses that, especially if done very sensibly, if done kindly and softly, maybe the horses will get to enjoy it. But it starts from maybe some confusion and so on and so forth. Well, uh, play is one of the ways, not the only way, God forbid, but it's one of the ways that we know for a fact scientifically that all animals, humans included, like. Not only they like it, like the chemical recipe of play, whenever you're playing whatever type of play, whether you're playing a soccer game, whether you're making art with your daughter and playfully, put hair over this I don't know,
Right.
over this head that she forgot to put hairs on. My daughter's 4 years old, so that's fair, or whether I'm singing with my friends or we're still playing and the chemical recipe changes. And what I mean by that is when we're in a play situation and context, our brain releases neuromodulators and hormones that make us feel a certain way, make us feel like we want to keep going, right? So the chemical recipe changes depending on what sort of play we're doing, but it always feels good. Not only it's truly magical under this point of view, and I use this term really loosely because it really is super scientific. It doesn't only feel good, it has incredible impact on a lot of other things that are really helpful, such as play increases the tolerance to stress. Play increases our neuroplasticity. How quickly can we move from one emotional state to the other? How quickly we can learn. Play increases creativity and imagination. Play gives more resources to the body when it tries something during play and that something is new. All of a sudden, the brain says, oh, well, that felt good and fun and effortless. Why don't I send more resources to the body parts that were involved in that movement? So that next time that it presents itself, I will make it feel good and I will approach it with a yes instead of that's I guess that's where my mind went when you asked me the definition of play. Yeah.
I love that. It's really funny. I had This experience, I don't know how many years ago now, but I had been working with someone who was very much into this lighthearted way of teaching. I thought I was getting it, right? And she had very politely at times told me that I was still a little bit rigid in my thinking. And but I was, I thought I was getting it. And then I happened to go to a clinic with a clinician I had not worked with myself before, but I had seen in action. And I would say that this person is not really, when you see her, not the most playful looking human, right? But I was filling the space for somebody else. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I remember one early morning, she used to do these private, like 15-minute private sessions before and after the clinic day. And I'm not a morning person, so I'm always going to sign up for the ones on the after the clinic day. But I still had to come in and feed my horse and do all those things, right? So I come in and I'm feeding my horse and kind of getting him into the routine for the day. She's working with somebody, and I come over and I sit in the gallery and I'm like, "Ugh," it's whatever early morning time it was. And she's like, you just have to make it a game. Like, you have to play. And the lady said something about, well, I haven't played in years. And then I thought to myself, oh, I just don't play well with others. Like, that's just never been my thing. I was never a team sport or a game type of girl. Like, I rode
Yeah.
horses, that's what I did. In that moment, in my, like, half consciousness, I was like, oh, wait, this is your thing. So you're still not going to find me in like an interpretive dance class or anything like that.
Oh, I'm so bummed to hear
But
that. I was hoping this would be it, you
this
know.
would be it. Yeah, you'd see me like on the video. No. Um, but that really, funnily enough, there's probably two moments, and that's the second one in my journey that I remember clearly as being, okay, this is something that you need to start to take into consideration. And I had worked with athletes,
Mm,
you know, through high school, through college, and even though we're talking about playing sports, a lot of it's not play, right? It's serious when you're at that level. I know these things. I know the
yeah,
kinesiology. I've studied it, right? But to actually then put it in practice with the horses and go, oh yeah, that makes total sense. And yes, it does work as well, was a
well,
really big aha moment for me, I
yeah.
guess. And
It's really intuitive, isn't it? If as a
it
parent,
is.
I'm sure you have a thousand anecdotes to tell. I mean, silly example, and horse training and child raising it
Yeah.
often really goes hand in hand when it comes to motivation, motivating the child. Like my
Yeah.
kids, like 99.9% of kids on the planet, they hate shower time. I don't know why, but okay, let's go upstairs to take it to no, and then disaster and desperation and so on. Until I say the last one to put their foot up to the last step upstairs is literally, I translate this literally from Italian, um, is a cooked pear, which means absolutely nothing. But nobody wants to be a cooked pear, apparently. And so all of a sudden they're upstairs and it's fun and we all laugh and giggle. And I got my
Right.
behavior done faster than if they would have just, executed an instruction, and we got an adventure and an experience out of it. It's the same thing. Plus, I feel like there's a lot. Really, everyone has their own thought when they think of play, but there are so many different types of play. So if you think maybe of a girly Barbie game and you're like, oh, I don't do that, or being silly. Yeah, I love silliness, and for me, if silliness could be part of every game, it would be fantastic, but it doesn't have to be. A game could also be like, I'm gonna score that goal if my life depends on it, right? And that's more
Right.
passionate. And
Yeah.
often with horses, when we activate passion feelings safely, safely, but we activate, and then we get beautiful collection, top line engagement, and then they get muscled up really nicely, and they're not the opposing to aids muscles, they're the actual muscles, right? It's really
Right.
just a win-win-win-win. Every way I look at it, play is a win.
Yes. And I will say, I've thought about this before, that I am very happy that I had this revelation and went through this process with the horses before I had children,
Mm,
because I think my trying to raise children would have gone very differently had I not had that.
I believe it.
Because yes, they are, just motivating them in a way that makes sense to them is so important. I think it's a great correlation and very easy for a lot of people to understand, because even if you don't have kids, you have probably been around them at some point, or you see children and you can then say, oh, that's why, things are done that way with kids rather than, just the you must do this now
Yeah. Well, and
thing.
it completely. Even
Yeah.
even with, continuing the parallel, whether we're thinking about horse training or raising children, I feel like it always boils down to a couple questions. One would be what type of leader, what type of parent, what type of trainer, type of, fill in the blank do I want to be? Like, do I want for my horse to look at me and roll their eyes to the ceiling because, here's another session coming where I'll be bossed around, even kindly, but I'll be told what to do the entire time. Okay, fine. And those are necessary, don't get me wrong. I'm not an advocate in any way of only play. Like sometimes, always,
Right.
always, even during play, anything I play, also with my kids, there are clear rules.
Right.
Rules are meant for safety and they're meant for clarity and they're meant for everybody's feelings to be respected and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
But do I want to be that leader that triggers an eye roll? Or do I want to be that leader that is like, oh, wow, that person is so followable and she has such fun ideas. And she is fair when she sets the rules of the game, whatever the game is. So I want to hang out with them. So
Right.
it's that. And what that I think usually bleeds into, if you will, is the question, how much do I not want to die? When it
Right.
comes to
Well,
horses, if we have the horses buy-in, it's
yeah.
really unlikely that they'll want to try and murder us and
Right.
throw us or buck and bite and kick and so on. And if
Right.
we've shown that we're pleasant to be around, and this includes also other things that I like to do in my horsemanship, Elizabeth, too. I know that you do that too. That don't necessarily have to play with consent. Like, do I feel heard? Do I feel seen? Can I really trust this person? Or will they always, uh, you know, how do you say, overlook how I feel and
Hmm.
simply make me do what needs to be done? Again, there's a time and place for that.
Right.
Emergencies, for instance. Yeah, but
Right.
if I'm
Right.
always just like that, I'm setting myself up to be thrown, to be
Right.
like everyone fends for themselves. The bear comes out of the bushes. Bye, I'm out of here. You stay here and you
Right.
be eaten by the bear. Like, no, the horse will not really care for me.
Right. 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 But if you're the type of leader that they're like, oh, you might have a good idea of how to get out of this situation. Let me
Right.
let me see what you're going to do. Then it's a different dynamic, right? Than every man for himself.
Completely.
And I
Plus,
think
I'll add, oh,
that's,
sorry.
yeah, I think that's so important. And I think that kind of leads me into, it kind of answers my next question. But why do you think people are so against it in the horse world, especially? And I think a lot of it plays into safety, right? And what we're taught. And when you're talking about boarding barns and training barns where there's lots of horses, lots of people, there's lots of moving parts. I understand some sorts of things you may not want to do in that setting, but that does not mean you can't have this mindset of this is fun, we should be having fun. I
Yeah.
got into this because I wanted to have fun, because most people didn't get into riding to not have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, I don't know at a historical level, at a societal level, how it is that we got here.
Yeah.
It might have a lot to do with the fact that horses were our transportation means until very recently, and the humans considered them as simply born to fulfill a job, to fulfill a function. It might have to do with this incredibly difficult thing that is called creativity and thinking with your own brain, right? I feel like there's a lot in the mainstream system that boxes you in.
Yes.
Okay, well, you want to ride, therefore you start from A, B, C, D, E, and you don't need to do the thinking. And you don't ride without the instructor present. I'm like, what? What? And then all the sports are about being correct or not correct, black
Mm.
or white, yes or no, binary programming, right? What I am not so sure where the fun is in all that. Certainly,
Right.
we're probably there's this strong need to fulfill a sense of belonging to a specific community that has its own rules. Um, Certainly, there is some of that, but I feel like you were saying, really, much of what gets any child or adult started, the beautiful inspiration, the beautiful dream of being one with your horse, of that tactless ride into the sunset on the beach, right? It's completely lost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I totally understand. I really, really do. Having a clear path to measure yourself and your horse and your togetherness against something increasingly difficult if you enjoy a sport, if you enjoy jumping, eventing, dressage, cowboy, whatever it might be. But it also feels like if that is really all you're in for, and you just force your horse there. And I know this might sound like a harsh word, but how many cortisone injections do we need to do to this poor horse who stifles? Like, maybe just go trail riding and listen to what they're telling you, or maybe just play liberty on the ground, or maybe just do why do we really need to define ourselves against, or to define ourselves and our value as a function of how much or how many ribbons we're getting? Um, it just escapes me. I guess I was lucky to be raised in the performing arts, and so my trouble is exactly what most people actually find
Right.
easy, like boxing myself in sometimes and really sticking to that one thing. Um, but we lose the horse in the process, don't we? We lose them. We
Mm-hmm.
define them and their value as a function of how well or how not well they can fulfill the vision we have, and then we get to a level, we discard them and get the new one, right? And again, it's completely okay and wonderful to have dreams, but are we so sure that these are the dreams we went to look for horses for?
Right. Right. Yeah. That's when I think people get stuck and they want to have this dream, but then it gets so muddled. They get so indoctrinated into these systems without even meaning to. Most people,
Yeah.
it just happens. And then they don't know where to go from there. And it's like, oh, well, what do I do now?
Mm.
And yeah, it's a weird dynamic. And I am of course from the like complete opposite background of you. I'm the structured person. I do want to do those things. Like I am competitive in that nature.
Mm.
But also I'm always questioning why. Why? And so every time I would get to a point with a horse where they didn't want to do something, I was like, well, why not? Not let me get rid of this one and get a new one. It was like, well, why not? Or did they want to do something different?
Yeah.
And so this how I kept learning. It wasn't, I guess, by design.
Yeah,
Um,
but you kept listening. That's the key point, right? You got to a
yes.
roadblock and you asked your horse why, and then you explored what it was that you could do to make that feel better, right? And it doesn't have to be through play. Again, like there are seven emotional systems. If anyone listening is familiar with Jaak Panksepp's work, I mean, there's lots that evolved in science too since this work, but just to simplify. Play is one of them, and it
Right.
feels good. There are a few that are positive and a few that are negative, as in few that are desirable, and the animal in the lab and the experiments wanted to repeat and to go back to, and a few that they didn't. Play is one, but there's also care. There's also seeking, right? So that
Mhm.
there's more ways that lead to Rome. I know
Right.
it's not exactly how the proverb goes, but I used it this way.
Right. You can make your own. That's totally
Yes.
fine. It's totally fine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's fantastic. And people in the horse will need to hear that. Like there are many ways to roam. You don't have to
Yeah,
do
for sure.
right.
I'm
Just
I'll give you an example, right? Just to understand the main principle that I know for a fact that you embrace as well in your work and in your training. My real job is to help people think, right? It's not about them embracing this method, this tool, this curriculum, none of it. Listen to your horse at the most deep level that you possibly can and think and listen to their questions and think together. So I'm working now with an eventing horse and his wonderful human. She's a trainer. She's local here. And he's an incredibly explosive horse with very dangerous behavior. She ended up in the hospital, and that was the trigger to starting to work together on his progress. She's hoping to go modified prelim, I forget. Anyway, to keep going through the eventing hoops with him next season or this season. And he is one of the most playful horses I have ever met. If you see him in his paddock, there's maybe 1 or 2 hours a day in which he doesn't play with his buddy George. Okay. All the remaining 21, 22 hours a day are play, 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 play. So in approaching this case study, this complexity, I knew that he didn't lack play. We were covered. Like we got play down. Got it. Now what he lacked was down regulation, was self-awareness, was confidence away from the herd, was rehabbing from all the assumptions. He always assumed the worst. He has a past,
mhm.
and a harsh one for it, to it. So that needed to be the work. So how can I help you? First, downregulate really deeply until you yawn every time I see you, and then teach the owner these tools. And here they do their homework. Next time, how can I help you feel your body and be aware of your body so that you know how to place it when you approach big jumps? Turned out that was a big deal for him. Like he was really anxious because he didn't know how to use his body. People had pushed him into it. So he
Mhm.
wasn't thinking, he was panicking over jumps, right?
Right.
And so on and so forth. And truly, very little of our work together included play. It included other pleasant emotional systems, mostly care,
Mhm.
right? And seeking, a little bit of seek, but not too much, because otherwise, because of his play drive, he would be what? Like, and
You'd
we'd
be
like,
right.
thank you. We need some of that yay from you, but we mostly need And it's not just about what your human needs, it's just you lack that. It can't feel good to be you, right?
Right.
All beings look for homeostasis naturally, like that state of calm and quiet and inner peace, if you will. Horses are
Right.
pros at it. Some horses don't necessarily have the tools.
Right.
So
Right.
not much play there, right? We thought
Right.
together, we've read the horse. I heard their goals, and we're like, well, We'll stop at any point if the skull feels like it's not the thing for this horse, or if pain kicks in and we realize, she took such accurate diagnostics. It was amazing. We could rule out not everything. You can never rule out everything
Right.
pain-wise, but a lot. And
Right.
so here we were left to, okay, well, what's missing is this. He plays on his own, right?
I think that's a great point you said about teaching people to think, because a lot of the traditional horse world tries to teach people not to think. In my opinion, they do. And I don't think it's necessarily purposeful, but they want things to go a certain way. And they teach a certain way in that people are instructed to do a thing when you're told to do it, and then that's the end. And people often don't know why they're doing things.
Yeah.
And, I had somebody comment on a social media post of mine earlier today where, I was kind of talking about the inside aid connection, and they were, and referenced the outside aid connection. And they said, well, shouldn't your outside rein do this and your outside leg do this? Maybe sometimes. I mean, it
Yeah.
really depends. If we
Yeah.
get stuck in this thing of we always have to do this, then there's not that state of curiosity, which people and horses, when you're in that state of curiosity, your brain is feeling safe. Your brain is like, okay, what can we do now? And then things become easy rather than being in that state of, I have to do this or
Yeah.
something bad will happen.
Yeah.
Right. And then that is not safe. And then your brain is like, okay, well, we got to go up here and I have to assume that everything's going to be bad. And that's how and horses get to the point where they don't feel their bodies, because that's a lot of the same problem that riders have,
Yeah, completely.
right? Is that they're not feeling their bodies and they think that this thing called feel is something out there that, one person is born with and somebody else is not. No, it's just if you're in your thinking brain, you can feel your body. If you're not, you can't.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, yeah. And
You know,
nature set it up that way.
yeah. What if I see the value, especially when you're learning something new, the value of a traced path. It
Yeah.
luckily or unfortunately, however we want to put it, for us, uh, what horses put on our path was a lot of untraced paths. We just had to try something new and see what happened, and really dare to ask ourselves the questions that people were very afraid. Most of the questions live and die without really formulating them, verbalizing them. But so what if the traced paths was a set of questions and you had to choose your own adventure within that,
Mhm.
and then you decide your own level of throwing the rule book out,
Right.
if any, right? But
Right.
for me, when you mentioned the outside rein and the inside leg, the obvious question for me was, well, why are you using reins?
Right. Right.
Right? Which is not
Right.
really obvious for many, right? But
Right.
uh,
I mean, people would be, why would you not?
right? Like
Yeah.
my obvious question was, are we sure like if you're trying to solve a problem, I don't know what problem it was, are you sure you need to solve it with reins and
Right.
aid? I probably wouldn't. I mean, I
Right.
use reins sometimes, seldom. I use even leg aids.
Right.
But so what's your level? And at whatever level of, depending on your comfort zone and your personality, what if it was questions that created that traced paths and guided you, but then you have to give your input and your horse needs the
Hmm.
biggest input. And that's
Yes.
how you get to togetherness. That's how you get to co-creating it. God forbid that we let
God
lead
forbid.
sometimes. I'm being
Yes.
blasphemous now, right? But what is co-creation otherwise? What is play? Like, have you ever played with someone who wanted to boss you around the entire time? How fun was it?
Right. Right. Exactly. Oh, that's a great segue into intrinsic motivation
Yeah.
versus compliance.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I don't think, in the horse world, I don't think that the term intrinsic motivation is that mainstream. So
No,
I'm going to let you explain it.
think about it as who gets the idea? The horse. It's actually their idea. Now I can ask and they can execute. Say, trot. Okay. I'm on the ground doing a liberty session. Okay, let's make a more mainstream example. I'm riding and I request trot. I requested it. They didn't think it. Right? That's fine. It's totally fine. But that's what I mean by intrinsic motivation. Who has the idea? The horse. They're intrinsically motivated. And they're not doing it because I asked. They're not doing it because there's a treat involved at the end. They're not doing it because they're afraid. They just feel like trotting, right? And
Right.
it turns out that when mammals are intrinsically motivated to move, over a period of time, they get all of the health benefits from movement, from fitness, from exercise. When they are not, they get a lot of setbacks, such as ulcers. There's a beautiful research or study on this. I made a reel a few months ago on it because it's one of my favorite ones. This group of researchers took two groups of mice. It was the control group and then, so three really. And then over the course of 4 weeks, they let this group of mice run in a wheel anytime they wanted. They just had access to a wheel. And the last group of mice, anytime the first group would run, they forced them to run with sticks, sometimes with small electric shocks. Okay. They had the same exact amount of exercise on the same wheel, right? But the first group were like when they dissected them all at the end, poor rats, they didn't live a long life. But when they dissected the first group, the voluntary wheel group, they found increased circulation, the muscles are really healthy, and they a lot of what comes with the body being nourished by fitness and chosen
Hmm.
voluntary exercise. While the other group was a disaster. Ulcers, poor circulation, even brain damage, actually, over 4 weeks.
Wow, it's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Not all movement can be intrinsic at all. It's unrealistic to think about that.
Right.
And again, not opposed to competing at all. Like it's beautiful when you can go role model how it can be done in a beautiful way that is horse friendly and horse first. I mean, full admiration. I'm in full support actively, to this world with my work. But how about we use that when we want to help the horse acquire new movement that they haven't showed yet?
Hmm.
And it's possible. Elizabeth will tell you, I mean, most of her natural dressage she teaches from the ground at Liberty through play. And then she can perform tactless and bridleless on her Mustang, which definitely wasn't bred. I mean, wasn't bred at all, and definitely
Right.
wasn't bred for dressage,
Right.
right?
Right.
So anytime we inspire, how about we find a way to inspire our horse, not to
Yeah.
tell them what to do, however kindly. There are so many ways. I mean, positive reinforcement at Liberty. Do this. Why? I'm not sure. I'm doing this because you're asking me, Mom. Good job, click treat. Or even with gentle ethical pressure and release. Why not? Okay. But the horse doesn't know why,
Right.
right? How about we find a reason, we find a way for them to think, how about I do this? And
Right.
you're like, yeah, how about you do that?
Hmm.
Great, good for you. And then it feels good because the brain rewards it on its own. That's why I
Yes.
wanted to start from that definition of play when you asked me that first question.
Yes.
It feels great. It involves endogenous opioids. It's an
Right.
actual drug,
Right.
right?
Yes. And like you said, with in the beginning about joint injections, I have had horses that I have worked with who, when I started working with them, were on a regimen of, we do this every month or every 3 months or we had this whole thing. And, one of them a couple of months ago saw the osteopath that they hadn't seen in a year. And she was like, there's a couple things here, there, but this horse looks great. What have you been doing? Well, pretty much all the same things, just different, right? The horse is still, primarily doing dressage work, I guess, but just differently, And my own horse that I competed with, he's 30, and he still trots in, canters in sometimes to get his food. He's so deaf now. It's hilarious because if he's out in the field and he doesn't see me coming to feed, can't hear me anymore.
Buddy.
So I'm trying to like get at the right angle for his vision and wave my arms and all this until he finally catches. And then he's like, "Oh, hello!" And it's like, this horse, the things I put him through, you would think that he would just be half crippled, but he is not. It's so fun to see that. Then I meet horses who are a third of his age or even 1% of his age and are already having things done to them to
Yeah.
maintain their soundness.
Which is an illusion, but
Exactly,
maybe we
exactly. It
don't want to
is.
touch upon that one. I mean,
Right. That's a
how
whole
much more
nother.
proof do we need from the sections that prolonged
Right.
cortisone injections actually causes the necrosis? How do you actually pronounce that in English? I'm not sure.
Necrosis. Yes.
Necrosis of tissues. Like,
Yes. Yes. And funny, I know this from my studies in college, but I actually have been suffering with a frozen shoulder, which is apparently
oh,
a common hormonal thing when you're my age. And I've had it for about a year, and
oh,
I've been working on it. Right, it's been getting better. Da, da. Well, a friend of mine is an orthopedic PA, and I saw him a couple months ago, and I said, I feel like I'm on the edge, like it's moving a little better. The pain is way, way less, but and I've got more movement, and he said, okay, well, if you feel like you get to a point where there's just a little bit you need to get past or it gets really painful to something, then we'll think about injecting it. But I don't want to inject it because of what that causes in the
yeah,
joint. And he's like, and you already have, even though it's pretty mild, I do have some arthritic changes and I have a little bone spur. And he's like, so, we're just going to aggravate that if we put steroid in there, right?
yeah, for sure. Well,
So
and
we know that about humans. We've known it for a long
or
time.
I don't want to in any way get into macro medical world conversations, but there's a lot to it, isn't there? In
Yes.
my home country originally is Italy, and I know that cortisone is not a thing there anymore for injections. And there are, they're using stem cells, they're using, I'm not so sure how to say it in English. I apologize. It's called ozonoterapia. I'm
Oh, like ozone therapy. Yeah, I know what
Thank
you're
you.
about.
Thank
Yes.
you, that, right?
Hmm.
And in the States, no one, I haven't
Mm.
heard doctors mention it, while from my parents, my in-laws and so on are all at that age that are starting to
Right.
niece with that, and it really has no side effect. And so, I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot to it. There's a
there
lot
is.
to it.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's one of those things that we just kind of take the word of the the veterinarians and the other professionals that this is what is typical. But I feel like that's a place where you can ask questions and say, well, why,
again, the
does it
question,
need to be typical? And
the question.
sometimes, yeah, and sometimes you do need you have, you know, a body part, whether it's a human or a horse, that is in crisis, and you just need to,
Absolutely.
right, stop the
Yeah,
cycle.
yeah, God forbid. Or the
Yes.
pain, right? I mean,
Yes.
pain is a sensation, and
Right.
sometimes it's assumed, even when
Yes.
the damage is done.
Mm-hmm.
My husband had a meniscus surgery, and he kept experiencing
Yes.
pain
Totally normal.
afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
and his brain kept protecting it, but the
Yes.
doctor kept saying, no, it's completely gone. So he had one
Mm-hmm.
steroid injection, one to reset his brain, and he's been
Mm-hmm.
okay since. So I'm
Yeah.
again, far from me the the even thought of being an absolutist or a purist under any of
Right.
these points of view, you know. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
when we do a lot of something, like a lot for a long
Right.
time,
Right. For a long
let's ask
time.
ourselves some questions, you know, like
Yes.
even the questions, like, what assumptions am I making about this? What am I not asking myself? Those are sometimes the most important questions, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just having that awareness of what am I not seeing here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're talking about what am I seeing or we're not
Mm.
seeing, how do you
Mhm.
know? What would you say some signs are that your horse is actively participating versus tolerating what you're doing?
Well, it's very easy, isn't it? Just take the halter and lead rope off and see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
That's the easiest bit. And then if you really learn to read your horse in those situations, you'll start to see the super subtle signs that, oh, maybe they're done with this game because they're starting to leave, they're starting to eye the gate, they're starting to eye the grass. And then if you want to carry some of the play or some of the feeling of participatory interaction in the saddle, then you'll already know all these signs and you'll
Yeah.
feel them and you'll see, even though it's a different perspective, there's a lot still that you can see if you want to use your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said at the beginning that you looked at Sombra's butt a lot when you started to do that.
Yeah.
And I've been through the same experience. So I didn't have a Mustang, but same experience basically. And it's really hard. I think there's so much fear in people. Two different things. One, they're afraid that their horse doesn't like them,
Mm.
right? Their horse doesn't love them, and that they just can't, they don't want to see that, right? And then the other fear is, of course, what we've all been taught when we learned how to ride was, God forbid, don't let the horse win, right?
Not a competition. Like, what are they
Right.
winning?
I don't know. I know.
What
I
does
would.
that even mean?
I
Like,
always ask people that. I'm like, well, what are they winning? I don't understand. What are they winning?
no, let them
Um,
get away with it. What?
right.
Where
What are they winning? What are they winning? The
they
grand
probably
prize
felt a need,
of,
and then they were trying to satisfy that need. What are? Whoa.
right, right.
Okay.
So, what is your advice for people in that situation where you are either staring at your horse's butt or you know you're going to stare at your horse's butt and it's a mental thing for people.
It's huge. It's huge, and it feels horrible.
It
There's
does feels
nothing
terrible.
we want more than reciprocity. And this is not just for our horses, it's for our significant others, for our
Oh
friends,
yeah.
for our relatives, for our children, right? But
Hmm.
you know, I hardly think that the answer is forcing it, or spending all of our time telling them what to do. However kindly, you know, if you look at your horse in a herd, there must be some moments in which they're having ideas and leading a conversation with their buddies.
Sure.
It's always, you know, there's no such a thing as the lead mare. I mean, sure, in general, maybe, but that lead mare doesn't lead all the time.
Right.
It's shared leadership, right?
Hmm.
So it might hurt a lot to admit it, to acknowledge, to even ask yourself that question. But it, at least in my personal, speaking from personal experience, I wouldn't change it one bit. I wouldn't change that 1 year one bit. I had to go through that pain of knowing she didn't give a continental piece of China, like my friend Poleska says.
I
Okay.
love that. Oh,
She didn't give it. All she wanted to do was hang out with her buddies because
right.
I didn't offer her any opportunity to feel pleasant feelings when we were together. Fine.
Right.
Okay, sure, I pet her, but at the time she didn't like being pet.
Right.
Was I asking?
Like,
No, I was
I know.
assuming she's a
Right.
horse, therefore, I mean, she's a wild horse. You know, there's a lot of not petting for wild horse. Like they don't even know what humans are.
Right.
So. right? So I wouldn't change a thing. I had to go down that black hole. I mean,
Hmm.
ask anybody, especially Elizabeth. She was like picking me up with a teaspoon in my tears of the arena for all that time, and she heard all of my crazy rant where I felt because first I was really mad at Sombra because
Right.
I kept going to this trainer or this other trainer was all mostly natural horsemanship. And in no way my natural horsemanship is perfect. As I said, it's a lifelong journey. So, but I was competent. And
Right.
and everyone was telling me, listen, I have no idea why this is happening. You're doing everything right. That's exactly how I would do it.
Right.
Right. So I was mad at her first because she must have been wrong. Right. Why
Right.
are you not normal? I literally
Right.
would use this word. I mean, what? And then I started asking myself, and entertaining all the taboos that have been already planned and planted in there, like using food. And then I
Mm.
found a course on positive reinforcement. I was like, let's try that. And it wasn't about the food. The food helped, but it wasn't about that.
Right.
Then I found a course in intrinsic motivation. I tried that. And then I
Hmm.
started looking into child psychology. And I tried that. And then Elizabeth found another course in this other thing for rehab, and then we tried that. And it's very different. And now you know, I was telling you before the call started that she is panicking now most her days because she just moved to her home property, and it's a huge transition for her. I go out to the
Hmm.
pasture at Liberty. She sees me. She stops. She breathes. She yawns. And if I think, wow, that's who I am to her, I get chills.
Yeah.
It was worth all of the pain. It was worth all the rabbit holes. And the cool thing I'll add to that is that there really was no traced path for me to do it the way I really wanted. But now, in this day and age, there are some. So people don't really have to do all the work on their own. It's a question you can ask yourself on a Monday and on a Friday, maybe a Wednesday, maybe a Tuesday. You could have started a new path that really gets you to the bottom of it. And ideally, to your goals, if you have specific goals of trail riding, sports, or whatever it is, but consensual together, co-creationally, playfully, in a way where really you are that person for your horse. You are your dream person for your horse. He's your dream horse, but you need to be his dream human or her dream human too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think people are very afraid of that losing progress.
Yeah.
And I always try to tell people horses they don't forget. The things you've taught them, they don't forget.
No, no.
So you can take this time and learn how they want to do those things. And then when you go to ask again, they're more than willing. They're like, I already know what.
Yeah. But that's if it was pleasant for them to learn them.
Well, yes, if it
Stress
was
them to
something,
death
yes.
while we were teaching them and they were in fight or flight mode or mostly in flight mode, then I don't think they'll have retained much.
Yes, then they won't retain as much.
Yeah.
And that's a great point because learning does, or play and that mindset does aid retention. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
studied fact.
Yeah. And
And
play involves novelty. Otherwise, you're
yes,
not having fun, right? So in
right,
in play, whatever you're doing, you're always challenging yourself to expand your comfort zone, to try something new, something different. And because it's play, it's okay. You won't get hurt.
right,
It's almost like a gym for life.
right,
Right?
exactly.
Um,
Yes.
so if it happened during play, then here's your comfort zone expanding, and then you can tolerate more outside of it.
How would you recommend people start to integrate that kind of thinking into their everyday life? If they're not ready to just drop everything and stare at their horses behind, what do they do? What are some little things they can do?
Well, it really is a whole shift. you're right. Like if they don't want to completely throw the rule book out. Because for some folks, even taking a target and teaching the horses to follow without treats, just using curiosity
Mm-hmm.
is a huge stretch. So I feel like, my immediate reaction to your question is, even if you're not ready to embrace play, can we can we try to stop this constant cockfight mentality? Are you sure your horse was trying to test you?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your horse was full of tension and they didn't know how to deal with it because they're not, they don't have that emotional maturity yet. And so they were trying to tell you by running into you, by walking into you with their shoulder. Maybe they were trying to move away. Maybe their head was hurting and they needed to bite on something because that will expand, create some expansion they feel like they need in their skull, and therefore they use their teeth. Are you sure it's all about you? Okay. I feel like maybe if we start from that question, what does my horse need? Why did they just perform this behavior?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of assuming it's about us. And then we go home super frustrated at our horses, and nobody wants that. That's not why we started this. That is not why little 3-year-old Giorgia kept asking her mom to go see the horses. Why
Right.
would I go home super frustrated? I'm mad at my horse because they didn't do what I wanted. What does that matter? Sure, it matters sometimes, God forbid. Are we sure that's all there is to a relationship? Is that
Mm-hmm.
all we do with our significant other? Right? And this is just 101 conflict management. How do we want to do it? Do we want to do it in a passive aggressive way? Do we want to put labels and point fingers at the other? I mean, good luck in your marriage if that's how you deal with. I'm not saying it's easy and everybody falls in it, even if you know better. But why did my husband, why was he so um snappy this morning? Did I do something? Did he not sleep well? Did he, is he anxious because there's something at work coming up? How about the questions? The
Mm-hmm.
questions. Asking ourselves the questions. And sometimes our horses want to play too. So, maybe part of the answer is, oh, maybe they're trying to play with me like they play with their buddies. But okay, let me kindly, without being rude, kindly tell you, whoops, I'm not your buddy. Just that's not what you and I do together. But okay, no, but thank you. But I see you. I see that you need to play. How about I get you a binky? Here's a hoof pick, the rubber part of the hoof pick. Do you want to bite at that? I could play that, right?
Right.
What is the need? What is the function of that? That's how I forget where I heard this expression from Mustang Maddie, but I'm sure that she read it in a book and I'm forgetting the book. Apologies. What is the function? WTF. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question.
How about you? What do you think about that?
What do I think about? For me, I would say that it was very much a gradual process. I did finally get to the point where I was willing to stare at the back of the horse and try to figure it out, but it was very much a gradual process. The one thing is that mindset of it's not about you. And I don't know where that comes from in the industry, but I try to train all of my people. We don't ask like how was your horse? Because it's not about the horse, right? You can say how is your horse feeling today or how are you feeling today, but not how was your horse, like were they bad or good, right? Because that's
What does
not
that even mean,
right. What does that even mean?
Wh-
Does that
When we're snappy, are we being bad? Or
right,
we're just being overwhelmed with feelings that we're not processing in that moment, and the outcome is not pleasant, but that doesn't mean we're bad. Why do we need to judge?
right, right. So yes, it's that sort of being aware, without judgment
Yeah.
and stop making assumptions.
Yeah.
Just see what's happening clearly and then experiment with it. Would they like to chew on something? Would they like to do this or that? Or, and there's so many things that we have these rules for that we don't even know why. And why do we, like, what does it matter if the horse follows the rail when you're in the arena? You know, if they want
Here
to,
comes the question. Do you
right?
need to be in an arena?
Right. Yeah, well, or that, right? You
Right?
know, why? Why does it matter? So it's so interesting. I think that's the first thing. Just start asking yourself, why?
Yeah.
Why?
I wanna share this story because it's just so telling. I was just in Pennsylvania teaching a clinic roughly a week ago. I had this wonderful lady. She comes in with her horse, stunning horse, this Frisian cross, but he was chestnut,
Oh, interesting.
beautiful mane. Um, and she was obviously really like jittery and uncomfortable and kind of pulling him left and right. He looked really calm in that moment. But I've heard stories of his explosiveness because unfortunately he doesn't get any turnout in the ranch where he is because he foundered and so no grass. It's a bit of a complex situation. This horse kept approaching her space. Unlike most horses I see, this horse did it really kindly, really kindly. It wasn't, you know how most horses when they carry tension and anxiety, maybe they have ulcers or something, and they try to come in to tell you, I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling, it's almost like,
Right.
please do something, right? Well, most of the horse world thinks it's they're dominant or you need to get back and then you need to show them who that, what I usually really see is them trying to do that. It wasn't the case. It was not. And she kept rejecting him and telling him he was bad. And those defaults that together, she was really open to this. We literally took and tossed, we mimicked the tossing it in a toilet and then flushed, all these stereotypes. Each time she was,
Yes.
he's being dominant, it was like, right, which we're taking, we're throwing it, throw it with me,
Hmm.
and then we're flushing, psh, right, done. It's down the toilet, goodbye. Right. Anyway, it was not that. And so I asked her permission to be in front of this horse. Permission granted. I asked the horse permission. And what did he do? He gently walked toward me. We were almost chest to chest because I'm so short, then I can be chest to chest with horses. And he hugged me. Like, when you teach horses hugs as a trick. I had no pellets on me. I had no treats. It was not a reward-based session at all. The horse hugged me. And that hug lasted. I have it on video. I should send it to you. I melted. I melted. Now, I don't know if this is a trick that was taught to this horse. I know he was raised by an Amish family. They had kids. But it's not like he did it and then requested a treat. He did it and it truly felt in every way like he needed that comfort. He needed that closeness. It soothed him. The owner broke into tears and we started debriefing about that being his love language. He needed touch, he needed hugs, he needed comfort, physical comfort. And her realizing it was not her love language, despite having flushed down the toilet all the stereotypes, it was still not, right?
Hmm.
But how many layers did we have to go through to realize that
Hmm.
and to be okay with it? And for her to be able to tell him, listen, honey, this is not I see you. And every once in a while, I'll let you because I see that you need it. I will not meet you there all the time because my love language is different. But look, I'll offer a different way for us to be close and together in a way that hopefully feels soothing to both of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that the session ended in such a way, like they were one. They it was like again, I got a whole wave of chills in my body, even thinking about how it segued into what it segued into. But we would never have gotten there if we didn't throw away all the assumptions first.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's an awesome story to end on.
No, we have to end.
I know. We could go on, but respecting both of our time.
It was
And
adorable.
I know your kiddos are probably coming home soon, right?
They are. Thank you so much for this beautiful conversation.
Thank you. I did enjoy it, and we will talk soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
Have a great one, Anna.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, horse fiends, this week's 10-minute experiment. I want you to pick one thing you regularly do with your horse that feels a little off. Not something terrible or dramatic, just something where you notice in you or your horse tension, resistance, boredom, maybe just a lack of enthusiasm. It could be trotting in endless circles, following the rail, picking up a specific lead in a certain way, grooming in a certain way, just catching your horse. Whatever it is, pick something. And once you experiment with that, feel free to pick more things. But pick one thing to start with. And for 10 minutes, don't try to fix it. Just get curious. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why do I feel the need to do this? Do I actually need to do this right now? Who is this for? Me? My trainer? My horse? What is my horse telling me about this? Then pause. Stand there, sit there, breathe, and watch your horse or feel your horse. You don't want to judge. You don't want to correct. You're just noticing. Then get curious. What might make this feel better for both of us? And then try one small change. Soften something, slow it down, speed it up, change the pattern, or don't do anything for a minute. Just see what happens. You're not looking for perfection. You're just looking for a little relaxation or a little less resistance. A lick, a chew, a softer eye. Your horse going, yeah, maybe I could do this, or yeah, this makes more sense. This is not about letting your horse do whatever they want. It's about stepping out of autopilot and using your thinking brain. Because most of the time, you don't need more technique. You need more questions and better questions. And at the end of your 10 minutes, just ask yourself, did I notice any change when I slipped into my curious brain instead of my corrective brain? Happy riding! All right, horse fiends, thanks for hanging out with us today. If this episode got your gears turning, don't forget to check out Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. The links are in the show notes. It's the program that'll take everything we talked about here and actually help you apply it in real life with your horse. And hey, before you ride off, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review of the show. It helps more riders like you find us and keep these conversations going. All the links you need are waiting in the show notes. Happy riding!